Okay, so we're continuing on with the exploration of the Horizon Software Starter Pack. So I've already covered Side A. So just to explain again, this was bundled free with the Spectrum, and it was designed by Scion Software Limited, published by Sinclair Research in 1982. And it's essentially, Side B is a bunch of programs written in BASIC that don't really do much more than explain what's capable on a computer that you have at home. So it was a series of, well, in fact, it tells you there, look, a series of different things. So the first one was a game, a breakout clone called Through the Wall. That's probably the first ever Spectrum game I ever played. So it's quite interesting. So with it being written in BASIC, it's very, very, very slow. The reaction times are, quite bad, and it wasn't the most sophisticated piece of software in the entire world. The big problem with it was that the angles of the ball were sort of restricted. So I'll just show you once it starts. So you can use the keys OP to move left and right, a little bat at the bottom, and cap shift to go a bit faster. It moves in character blocks as well, so that's why it's a little bit jerky. The ball, for some reason, is a diamond shape, which is weird. So if you see the ball, it's not got all the angles that a real ball would have when it's deflecting off something. It's all 90 degrees, 45 degrees, it's... and that ball really zips around as well. It's quite difficult to play. So the aim of the game is to get rid of all the blocks on the screen, and once you do that, you basically start again, and you can carry on playing. If you miss the ball and it bounces down below the bat, then you've lost a life, basically. I think you got 1 point per brick. I can't remember now, but it was something like that. One of the main tactics that you could do with this was to get the ball all the way through the wall, and so it could bounce around and at the top there, between the top of the screen and those blue bricks, and that would just keep bouncing around, destroying loads and loads of bricks. It was really effective. Getting it up there was a different matter because, again, because you've got the limited angles of the ball, it's difficult to sort of aim like you would with a tennis ball and a tennis racket. You can't really do that. Yeah, so he's lost a life there. Thank you again, Patrick Furlong, for putting this together, by the way. So I'll explain what happened. I asked Patrick to record both a full run-through of both sides, A and B, and I've just gone through and edited a bit of the loading sequences out just to speed things up. So poor Patrick had to go through and play this thing. I've not played this in years. Later on, of course, much more sophisticated versions of the game came out. So we had Arkanoid, games like that really, really sort of were better versions. There was a coin-op version of the game as well. I think it was actually called Breakout, the first one, and then obviously the Arkanoids, Arkanoid 2. I can't. Oh, Batty, that was another one, wasn't it? Batty was another game based on the same sort of thing. The game itself is actually an extended version of the first ever game, Pong, first ever arcade game. But in that game, it was a two-player game, and you just batted the ball between two bats. You two players, each had a bat each, and it's pretty much like tennis. You've got to sort of just keep the ball in play, and if you don't, then you lose a life. So this is a big problem with the game. So because you can't really aim the ball properly, it's really, really difficult to get those last few bricks, and you spend a lot of time just keeping it in play, hoping you just by complete fluke hit those bricks. So we're going on to the next part of the game now, next part of the tape, sorry. So this is just basically explaining what computers can do. So it's what's called a bubble sort, and that's where you go through a list of items, let's say, I think, yeah, it's a hand of cards, basically, shown in symbol form. So you just put in the cards in order. So let's say if I was putting my cards in order, I'd start with like an ace on the left hand side, the king on the right hand side, and what you do is you move each card one at a time down a place or up a place depending on the value of it. So two ideally would be next to the ace, the queen obviously next to the king. And this explains what the computer's doing on each pass. It's just moving those blocks around, those cards around. And there's multiple passes basically to get the cards in the right order. So there it is for the pictures of the actual cards, and you can see I can't remember which way around they were sorting the cards in this program. So it's going through each card and it's deciding basically which one's higher or lower, and it's moving them. So yeah, it's moving. So all the cards that are lowest in value, they should go on the left, I think. So I could be wrong. Yeah, I remember watching this for the first time. I must have been about 14 years old, and I was really, really impressed. Um, oh, the naivety of youth. Oh, I see, I see. So it's sorting them into different suits. That's what it was doing. So the next part of it is what's called evolution, and it's actually badly named because it's nothing to do with evolution at all. I'll start talking about that when the clip comes on. And again, I've just edited out a lot of the loading part of it just to speed up the experience for you. So again, it's the basic premise is it's showing differential equations, and this time it's using an example of foxes and rabbits and population numbers and how they affect each other. So the basic premise here is that it's foxes and rabbits. Foxes eat the rabbits. Um, so if there's not many foxes, the rabbit population goes up. Okay, that means there's a lot of food for the foxes, which then multiply, and the number of foxes gets higher, which means that they're eating more rabbits. So the number of rabbits starts to go down. So you can see on the left at the top, it's showing you how many rabbits and how many foxes. So yeah, the foxes initially start going down, and the rabbit population is going up. And this is very tedious, it goes on for ages this, but what's happening is the fox population starts to get a bit more populous. So it looks like rabbits and foxes are doing quite well at the moment. Maybe they've learned to live in peace with each other. So there's something going on there, so I'm not quite sure why, but the rabbit population is starting to, it's still going up, but not quite as much. So the foxes are starting to get more and more foxes into their into the land. The rabbits are starting to feel the effects of this now. Look, so the rabbit population is starting to drop. So it actually says 51 months, and that's probably in real time in the software. It seems to take forever to get through this. Yeah, so what eventually will happen is that the foxes are getting very, very, very populous in numbers, and the rabbits, as I said, are going to. In fact, I've no idea what's going on now. Look, so both of them seem to be going down. So ignore everything I've just said. I have no idea what's going on now, so I don't know why the foxes are dying out. Maybe it's climate change. I don't know. Yeah, you might want to just fast forward this bit because there's nothing much I can really say. And the foxes are recovering again. Look, so they're repopulating the land. I'm not sure what's going on with the rabbits, so they seem to be going downhill again. No idea what's going on, but it was nice to sort of watch for the first time those many years ago. It should get to the end soon and we can go on to the next part. So the next part is life. So I don't know if you're familiar with that. Um, there is a game of life, and essentially some rules about creatures living in a grid. So imagine there's 6 creatures that live in a grid. Okay, it tells you actually on there. Look, so there's 8 neighbours. So there's 8 squares around each square, and depending on what's in those squares will depend on if the creature in the middle survives or not. And he starts off with this. So again, Patrick did all this. I'm just editing it and talking through it. So you can put the creatures on the board in any configuration you like to begin with. Not sure what they're meant to be, but there's some sort of exotic life form. Essentially, they're just one life form, but they just look different in each square. So based on that, the computer calculates who lives, who dies, and essentially it's just making up some random patterns, I think, but it is actually based on some proper rules. It's not that great to watch, but it sort of just illustrates what that's all about. So keep an eye on the shapes because you'll see these later because those are what's called user-defined graphics, and those were defined to go onto some graphics keys in the game. You'll see those later on. There's a character generator that you can use, and those, because they're already in memory, they're used as the examples. So this is a really, really simplistic, written in BASIC art program. So you've essentially got your 2 different types of cross. You've got the actual cross and an X shape, and you can draw a line between them. You can move them about, move them to different parts of the screen. You can draw a line between them, you can draw a circle between them, you can draw a box, and you can fill them in different colours. because it's in basic, it's really, really difficult to get any speed out of it, and it's quite a tedious process to move them about. You move them both independently. So I can see that Patrick's drawn a line there, look. And another one. And another one. And a circle. So there you get the option to fill it when it says do you want to paint it or not. And if you do, it fills up with a solid colour, and you can choose the colour. So you've got your 8 inks, what's called an ink. So you've got like red, cyan, yellow, colours of the rainbow basically, that's why it's called a spectrum. And I mean, the colours are fine, but it's difficult. Let's say you're drawing an actual person. There's no flesh tones. There's no brown either. So if you're drawing anything that's wood, you typically have to go for a magenta colour or something like that. That's the magenta colour I was talking about. So it's filled in that middle circle there. If you notice on the outer circle, there's bits of it that have turned purple as well, magenta. And that's because of the colour clash. So they must have been inside the same character square. Next up, Monte Carlo. So I remember this as being a card game, but it's not. It's actually, all it is, it's a random number generator basically. So it's based on 2 dice being thrown, and it shows a bar chart at the bottom. So yeah, so that's the R&D function. That was random number generator. So what it's doing is it's generating random dice, one on the left, one on the right, adding them together, and then it's totting up how many throws of each dice total you're getting. So if the totals come to 7, it adds 1 to the bar at the bottom, and same with all the other numbers. And it just shows you basically the probability of those throws coming out. It's quite interesting actually, because you'd think that it would be equal across the board, but it tends to be the middle numbers that get the most throws for some reason. It's all very simplistic now, of course, but when I first saw it, I mean, having come from a ZX81, just seeing things like bright colours, you know, it was quite gobsmacking to begin with. It's quite exciting. Out of all the programs on this, I think we did actually play, myself and my friend Ian, whose computer it was, we played Through the Wall the most, just because it was a game that we had already had. But other than that, I think the Horizon tape just stayed on the shelf for most of the time. You know, it's one of those tapes you can always find at car boot sales for some reason. That and Survival, if you remember that game. So yeah, it's looking like again the middle numbers are really winning out. Okay, and the next part is the character generator that I talked about earlier. And again, I've just edited out the loading. I wanted to keep these parts of the loading in though, because it's quite nostalgic to see the the really big words on the screen. Oh, that was it. So it was letters A to U you could define. I remember it being all the way up to Z, but it's just up to U. And if you look at the screen, if you look at the characters underneath the letters A to U, you can see that there's already some user-defined graphics in there. That's because the A to I, they were used in the Life version on the tape that we saw earlier. And if you look a bit further up, so funnily enough, the user-defined graphic for Q for Queen is actually a Queen. It's actually a Q again, sorry. And there's a spade in there as well. It looks as though they're missing something, because I remember there was a club symbol as well and a diamond. I don't know where they've disappeared to, but so yeah, so Patrick there is just putting some random stuff just to make it different, and he saved it, so you can see that it's a different graphic underneath the letter A. And last up, we've got something called waves, and I've not really got a clue about what this thing's doing. I think it's something to do with sound waves and how they affect each other. So let's say you've got two different sound waves, how they react to each other, how they change each other. I think something like that. And there you have it. So all in all, I think it was a really good selection of things that you could put together, and as an example of what computers could do. It's quite interesting. Would I watch it twice? Well, this is the second time I've watched it. It's taken me 40 years to watch it twice, so that gives you an indication. But not a bad selection of different things to go through. If you're brand new to computers, I think it's one of those things that are quite interesting. But yeah, stick on your shelf forever. All right, well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. Bye bye.